All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Dawson County Board of Commissioners voting session, Thursday, March 18th, 2021. Appreciate those that are in attendance with us, as well as those that are online with us as well. We'll start out with a roll call. And all of us are present. We initially had an opening presentation, but that was canceled. And so we'll move on to the invocation and the pledge. If you would, please stand. Ask you to bow your heads at this time, please. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this yet another day. We thank you for the many blessings of life. We ask that we have knowledge and wisdom to carry out the business of this great county. Anything that we accomplish, we'll give you honor and glory in Christ's name. We do ask and pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Are there any announcements? Any announcements? We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. First up, we have the minutes of the work session held on March 4th, 2021. Any additions or deletions? Motions. Motion by Commissioner Fawcett.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And those are approved 4-0. Next up, we have the minutes of the voting session held on March 4th, 2021. Any additions or deletions? Motions.
Motion approved.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And those are approved 4-0. Next up, we have the approval of the agenda. I do have two additions to the agenda under number 5 and 6. Number 5 will be the Cacjcc grant for treatment court. And number 6 will be the Cacjcc grant for family treatment court that you heard earlier today. I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda with those two changes.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And the agenda is approved 4-0 with those two changes. No one signed up for public comment in this particular section.
No, sir.
We'll move on to zoning. And before we get into zoning, I'm going to go over the rules that we will use in our zoning process tonight. The planning director will present the application and recommendation of the planning commission. Then we will hear from the applicant. Then I will open the hearing. We'll hear from those who are in favor of the application. We will hear from those who are opposed to the application. Each person wishing to speak will be allotted 3 minutes per our zoning guidelines. Anyone who speaks will need to sign in and give us your name and address. Also, if anyone has donated $250 or more to any candidate, you will need to fill out a form stating so. So those are the rules that we will go by in our zoning process this afternoon. All right, so first up, we have special use 21-01. Candy Parkey requests a special use of tax map parcel 067-005 for the purpose of placing a second mobile home on 5 acres in RA residential agricultural zone. Jameson.
The property is located on Juno Road, tax map parcel 067-005. Candy Parkey is looking to place a second mobile home on this 5-acre property. As you know, residential agriculture allows for 2 primary residences, but a strict literal interpretation of it says that only has to have 5 acres per mobile home. So we allow a special use zoning for this particular purpose. So these decisions come before the Board of Commissioners for approval. It was heard before Planning Commission on February 16th. They voted 3-0 unanimously to recommend approval of this special use. There was no opposition at that meeting. Adding a second mobile home would be in the general character of the area. More than 5 acres. obviously, so it meets all the zoning requirements for this piece of property. I will entertain any questions at this time.
Questions for Jameson?
Tell me again why it's marked out rezoning request and it says special use. You
It's the
address,
same application.
do what now?
It's the same application. There is the application is, we don't do very many special use permits, but it requires all the same, and it requires all the same documentation as actually a variance application. Because variances and special use are similar. The difference in being a variance would be approved by the planning commission, whereas a special use permit, which has a much wider range of applicants, comes right before applications come right before the Board of Commissioners.
And I noticed it said on one part, Route 4, 281 Juneau Road. And then there's 467 Juneau Road. I assume, do we have routes like that? Are we talking about the same place?
Well,
I
We-
found the 467 Juneau Road,
right.
but why does it say Route 4, 281?
That is just in the letter of intent.
Yeah, so I mean, does she know where she's moving? it?
She does. The property's on the left. If you're heading west on Juneau Road, the property's on the left, right in between the Tatum and Davenport roads.
Mhm.
We have a plat of the property that has a more precise location and it
I
is.
went, I know where it
Okay.
is. I was just curious about.
That was actually the old address of the second mobile home. Before.
Okay, okay.
I think this mobile home is being moved from another lot, and that's the reason you'll see in your packet where there were two tax bill
Yeah,
things in there. One where I guess the mobile home's being either donated or sold from Frank and Tina Brown to the Pruitt. That's the reason you saw those two
Mhm.
things in there. And I think
Absolutely. Mobile homes are unique in the fact that they can either be a part of the property, they can be owned separately. So we always, when
Really?
it comes to mobile homes, we always try to make sure that we have all the documentation as to who's paying taxes on those, because you can't pay taxes on a mobile home separately than you can have it on your real property.
I did have a question for you, Jameson. In looking at the application, I did not see any comment from environmental health. Are we assured that the property will serve 2 septic systems?
That is an excellent question. And the answer to that question will be predominantly answered at the time of a building permit, because they would have to get a building permit in order to move that in.
I knew they'd have to pass that anyway, but
But generally speaking, if you have more than 5 acres, it will,
Normally.
it will perk. Normally it would, but the environmental health wouldn't have gone out in this situation because it's a 5-acre piece of property.
all right.
But at one time, did it have two? Well, it already had 2 mobile homes there at one time anyway.
It did.
Okay. Probably still got 2 systems.
Other questions for Jameson?
Now, this would be permanent. I know, are you Candy? Would you come up here just a little bit?
We'll get to her in a second.
Oh, okay. I want this. He said, stop.
Get you in just a minute. You're next.
I'm out of order. Don't listen to me.
No, that's fine.
All, as I spoke before, those compatibility standards are in our land use resolution. And so it will have to meet those standards, like the 48-inch by 48-inch landing outside of each door. It'll have to be inspected for all hookups to water, power, HVAC. Those things will come directly through my department during the building permit stage.
All right, thank you, Jameson. All right, Miss Candy, come on up. You're the applicant. Tell us exactly what you'd like to do.
Yes, I want to move the mobile home on the property to help my mom. She's 76 years old and she's pretty feeble. She don't need to be up there by herself. I won't be there all the time, but I will be there before work and after work.
Questions, Miss
Oh, I'm sorry to get hung up on this special use, so I'm all mixed up on that. But this would be a permanent residence for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So Jameson, this in no way implies temporary. It in no, okay. And you couldn't live with her rather than moving in?
No. No. she's
Are
got-
you kidding me?
No, she's got her ways.
I'd say something myself, it's being recorded.
She does have her ways.
Well, do you have children too?
I'll have
Moving.
grown children, then I have grandchildren. So it'd just be me and my boyfriend moving in.
Okay. All right.
Other questions of the applicant? Thank you, ma'am. We may have some more later. All right, so at this time, I'll open up the hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve SU 21-01.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Dooley,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. Next up, we'll move on to ZA 21-01, Lucas Ray request to rezone tax map parcel 104-032 from RA Residential Agriculture to RSR MM Residential Subrural Manufactured Move for the purpose of subdividing the parcel per RSR MM guidelines. Jameson.
I was looking for Mr. Ray a few minutes ago. I have not seen him yet. But this piece of property is located on Etowah River Road. Lucas Ray under ZA 2101 is looking to rezone from RA to RSR in order to subdivide his property and move a mobile home in for his son. It is not in conformance with the future land use map. It's really on the line in between RSR and RA, right there at the Etowah River. But at the same time, this would be in conformance with the surrounding area as far as being RSR and manufactured moved. It was heard before Planning Commission on February 16th. They recommended approval unanimously 3-0 with there was no opposition at that time. And I will entertain any questions at this time.
So this is the request is for 1 acre, and
Yes,
there is water in this area,
there is.
which falls in lines with RSR.
Mhm.
Okay.
There's sewer, there's, it's not water and sewer, is it?
I don't know, there's sewer down that, it's close. but it's not.
Probably in the future there is, but not right now.
And honestly, if that wouldn't make a difference anyways, RSR MM is a minimum of 1 acre, whether you have sewer or not. So
Okay.
And you said it's in conformance. What's around there?
it is. There we go.
There was something in there about obtaining a driveway application. Is that gonna be a problem? I
David?
wonder.
It's, yeah. Obtaining a driveway application shouldn't be an issue if it depends on where he's going to put the mobile home and what his intent is. But if if he was constructing a new driveway, he would obviously have to apply for that driveway permit through Public Works.
Other questions of Jameson? Thank you, sir. We may have some more. Is the applicant present? Come on up. Tell us what you'd like to do.
I'm wanting to rezone, I'm sorry, I'm Lucas, nice to meet y'all. I'm wanting to rezone to RSM, RR, I think, residential mobile home. That way I can give my son an acre of land to put his on. This will be the last one that we do. And I've talked with Mr. McKee. He says that pipe's going to be off the right away. So I told him that we're going to go ahead and put a 36-inch pipe in for later use, or so the water won't mess up the flow. I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry. I thought it was 6 o'clock. But anyway, we're wanting to reconstruct a bunch of the front property. That way we can make it all nice where we can keep it cut. And then the mobile home will be setting back off the highway, probably 250 foot, 300 foot. So I'm just asking to go this way. I talked with Jameson and he told me this is going to be the easiest way to go instead of trying to fight a hardship case. So that's the reason I'm wanting to go ahead and rezone to what they're recommending at the planning and zoning. Any questions?
Questions of the applicant?
Are you the one that had given your son 2 acres?
I give my daughter 2 acres
Oh,
a
you
couple of
did?
years ago,
Okay.
and then I'm giving my son
So-
an acre.
Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that 2 acres also in this too?
No.
Okay,
I had 7 acres. I give my daughter the top 2 acres of the property. And then I'm giving him the acre in between us because I can't build on the lower part because it's floodplain. So I give him that acre so he could put his in because we're not going to be able to use the lower 4 for anything, 4 acres for anything other than gardening, first one thing to another.
I believe you had a garden plowed out there.
Yes,
Did I
ma'am.
see a garden?
Yes, ma'am.
I thought I did. That dirt looks so pretty.
Yeah.
I said, he gonna have some good food.
Yep. So
Other questions of the applicant? Thank you, sir. We may have some more later. This time I'll open this hearing. There's anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, I'll close this hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fawcett,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. Next, we'll move on to ZA 21-02, Alex Meyer's request to rezone tax map parcel 113-093-001 from RA Residential Agriculture to CIR Commercial Industrial Restricted for the purpose of relocating an existing transfer station and constructing a new facility.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna recuse myself from the discussion on this and abstain from the vote. My family owns the property and the business, and I work for the business, so I won't be involved in any of it. So
Okay, thank you.
Are
James.
you out?
I'm out. I'm
Okay,
out.
you're out.
Safe.
All right, James.
Thank you, Chairman. Alex Myers, on behalf of 400 Waste and Scrap, is looking to rezone from RA to CIR. This is located at pretty much at the end of Easy Street and is just a continuation of this already existing industrial park. We have this zone, we have this designated in our future land use map as the continuation of this industrial park as commercial industrial restricted. This property is approximately 7.4 acres. It was heard at the Planning Commission on February 16th, and it was unanimously recommended approval without any opposition. This does trip a DRI, which is Development of Regional Impact. And they came back and said, with a completed study, and said that there was no potential adverse interjurisdictional issues with this relocation. The applicant is looking to, or 400 Waste and Scrap is looking to build the 2,000 square foot building to move its existing transfer station from its existing location. There were no major comments returned by any of the staff analysis, and it stands to bring additional jobs and tax revenues to the county. We are excited to see our businesses grow within the county. I'll entertain any questions at this time.
Questions for Jameson? Thank you, sir. Is the applicant's representative present? Come on up and tell us what you would like to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Alex Myers. I am an attorney here in Dawson County and represent 400 Waste and Scrap and their constituent members for this rezoning application. I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can, get to your questions as quick as I can. We are looking to do a 7.9 acres worth of rezoning here. The actual parcel that we're looking at is actually much larger. It's about 15 acres total. This is the actual property right here on the screen, outlined in the red box. So we're only looking to do about half of that particular parcel of land for this rezoning. The rest of it will remain RA as is currently. The only properties that surround the actual zoning, the subject property, are all current business and current family members related to the business. The only parcel that is not is the one to the immediate right, which is Bethel United Methodist Church. I mean, it's just there, looks like where their future expansion for their cemetery is, with a whole bunch of wooded area currently. There is another church directly to the northeast of it, which is the Christian Fellowship Church. Those are the only two real non-industrial uses that surround that particular property, other than family-owned houses and everything else. We are looking to do the existing property, just to kind of give a size equation here. The current transfer station portion facility is approximately 10,000 square feet of space. This new facility will double that to 20,000 square foot. This is a preliminary site plan associated with the property. You could see the new proposed transfer station portion. The trucks that are parked next to that, as well as on the more top portion of the site plan, are the actual trucks that would be used by 400 Waste and Scrap to transfer the waste out of the facility. They're expecting about 12 of those types of loads per day on that property. And they would use Easy Street for that access to go around to 53. If it's showing up on color for you, there's a little red, like trapezoid looking area. That was originally going to be a dedicated right of way that we were thinking about giving to the county to extend Easy Street out a little bit more. We've decided to actually just leave that as our property and basically just extend the driveway. That way, we've run into situations before where we have trucks that are looking to dump at the transfer station before we open the gates. This would allow them to have more space on a driveway that's not within the actual roadway and cause a safety hazard or anything else like that. The biggest thing with this project is we're just looking to kind of divide the two worlds a little bit, the scrap world and the waste world a little bit, make it a little bit easier to use for everybody. With the amount of growth that we're seeing at 400, I think that there will be a lot of citizens like myself that would go and use 400 Waste and Scrap to dump at the transfer station. And right now it's a little bit difficult to get in, especially to dump when you got all the scrap metal and everything else going on in that particular area. It's hard to get in and out of that back lot. This would make it a lot more streamlined process for everybody. Make 400 Waste and Scrap definitely grow, provide new jobs and everything else. Just also as another point, there is a parking lot just above the weigh stations that you can see. That's just purely for employee parking. Just putting that on there just to make sure everybody's aware of that. Any particular questions that the commissioners have?
Questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you.
You look like you want a question.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you, ma'am.
That's what, you explained it real well.
I try really hard to explain things so well that I don't get questions.
All right, so at this time, I'll open this hearing. Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
A quick question from McKee. We recently did Easy Street, I think, and it's up to par, and we're handling some pretty heavy trucks already up and down through there, correct?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve ZA 21-02.
Motion to approve ZA 21-02 by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And ZA 2102 is approved 4-0, 3-0 with 1 abstention. All right, we'll move on to ZA 21-03. Jim King requests to rezone tax map parcel 096-036 from RA residential agriculture to RSR residential sub-rural for the purpose of subdividing the parcel per RSR standards. Jameson.
Thank you, Chairman. This property, 096-036 is located really on the corner of Hugh Stowers and Thompson Road. The applicant is looking to rezone it from residential agriculture, which it has been its entire existence, to residential sub-rural in order to subdivide the parcel into, I believe it's 5 different tracks. 5 tracks, yes. And you can see the survey that's included within the application. It was heard before the Planning Commission February 16th. It was recommended unanimously to approve with the additional stipulation of a hydrology study. Now, and after further discussion with the applicant and others, you know, planning kind of looked at that and said a hydrology study could possibly help, but what would be more efficient would be to require each individual site to have a soil and erosion plan. That's what the soil erosion plan is, an engineered study to mitigate the soil and erosion on the site. It'll show you the amount of runoff and how much impervious surface is added to that site. And it'll make sure that they do the appropriate control measures like silt fence and riprap and other things to mitigate as much as possible, at least during the construction stage, the amount of runoff from these sites. Generally, a soil and erosion plan wouldn't be required for a minor subdivision. It'd have to be a major subdivision, which is 6 lots or more. But it is not uncommon for situations like this that could potentially have some sort of stormwater runoff to require those. RSR is an appropriate for our future land use map. So this area is residential agriculture, or is residential sub-rural. Majority of the surrounding properties are residential agriculture, but we call this entire area out because it's on, it's in the area between town and 400. So 1 unit an acre or 1 unit for every acre and a half is appropriate. I will entertain any questions at this time.
Questions for Jameson? Jameson, is there water in this area?
I believe there is water in this area. Yes. Yeah, I'm unaware if it extending this far all the way to Hugh Stowers, but there is water on Thompson Road.
Okay.
In some locations.
know there's lots of concern about water runoff. And I imagine that's why the hydrology study was recommended, whatever that is. I just know hydro is water. I don't know all this, but you know, the people that are already there, we want to mitigate that as much as we can. And you're saying this soil and erosion plan to each house?
Mhm.
Would that take care of that? You said it would during, I started
So,
saying
A hydrology study would look at the
construction.
overall site and the entire water, the drainage basin that flows down, and it would show it. A soil and erosion plan would allow me and my staff to have something specifically on paper during each building to say, hey, listen, you have to follow this, and we would go out and inspect to that. It's an engineering study done for each individual site. So it would give my office more teeth in enforcement, and it also look at it from an individual perspective, because we don't really know if, you know, the intent is going to be develop all of these at once or develop these individually over time, in that nature.
But you said that would help during construction. I want it where it won't happen, you know, when somebody's gone, a lot of times they go on their merry way and people have got these problems. So what you're saying here, it would help during construction, but then after everybody moves out, I don't want the people surrounding to be left with a mess of water. So you're
Absolutely.
saying that
It's specifically for construction, the soil and erosion plan, but it takes into
Okay.
consideration all the runoff from the site in general, all the land that's going to be disturbed.
okay.
That way, we're not compounding on a problem that could be already be potentially there.
Seems to me that the hydrology study is a macro study that looks at, I think from what I looked at, was about a 500-acre watershed for this particular area. So this is just drilling down and looking at each individual lot and what's the impact that each individual lot takes or causes on the whole area, which seems to be the right approach to me.
This would generate also our stormwater person, Brian Young, looking at that. Louise McPherson looking at that from the state. So they're gonna have about 3 eyes as far as the building inspectors, our soil erosion person, and the states that's in this area, Louise, looking at, she's got a checkoff sheet too that they have to go by. So it's gonna put more eyes on it. And Louise is pretty passionate about the watershed areas and stuff, so she
That's
will-
putting it
she will-
lightly.
Yeah. So she will make sure, I think. it's right.
Yes. I just don't want these people aggravated to death. And I think maybe there's already a problem down there and I just don't want to make it worse.
Absolutely.
Other questions for Jameson? Thank you, sir. Is the applicant present? Come on up and tell us what you would like to do. Please give us your, excuse me. Please give us your name and your address as well, please.
Kevin Clemens. I live at 123 Shepherd Drive, Dawsonville, Georgia. And what we're proposing to do is we're requesting a rezoning from the RA to the RSR, which is in the future land use plan. And under that RSR zoning, we could have asked for 8 lots, but we really didn't want to impact the area to that extent. We're not trying to max it out. So we were simply asking for 5 lots. And in these 5 lots, if you look on our preliminary plat, they're minimum of 125 foot wide. And the impact per footprint for the overall square footage of this is very minimum. And in total agreement with doing what Jameson suggested on the individual site plans. I think that will mitigate anything that, I don't really feel like there's going to be an issue anyway, but we will do that to make sure there is not one. But these houses here will be built out of hardy siding and brick and stone accents. I feel like the price range here is going to be in the 5s and the 6s. It could go higher if lumber materials keep going up.
Oh, I know.
And if the market keeps going the way it is, and there's no real definitive start date for the other 4 lots. I selfishly have kept the big lot for me and my wife. We're gonna build our personal home there.
Well, you don't want to be in the doghouse.
Well, we really just want our privacy, but it is a economic thing. We can't afford to do this and keep the whole 8 acres. So at some point, there will be 4 other houses there. So
What is the size of yours? 2 point.
what's being drawn now, it's gonna be close to 4,000 square feet.
Okay.
I need to try and keep it under that because materials are just going every week that this goes on. We've kind of been waiting since, I guess it takes 3 months to get it zoned. So in that 3 months, all these prices have just shot through the roof. So, but the price range will stay the same. These will be in the 5s and 6s. And I will control what happens on the other 4 lots because I'm gonna live there. And so that's what our main purpose of doing this is to create a place for us to live and eventually 4 other families. So that's what our intent is. So I would like to respectfully request that y'all approve this as we have it with the condition of the site plans will be fine.
Questions of the applicant?
Quick question. When I looked at it, it looks like the ridge line goes kind of right here where these numbers are at. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. We want to put the houses right on the ridge line. So
Okay.
half of any impervious soils from that roof or driveway will go toward one direction, the other half will go the other. And we'll do things like riprap. There is a major drain over there, but
Right.
on the other side, but we'll do riprap and anything we have to do. We'll do what we have to do to control the
So
runoff as much as we can.
Your access points are from Hugh Stowers Road.
Yes,
That's where your
they will be.
driveway, and your
Yeah.
pervious surfaces would be there. The backyard, the way I looked at it in the area, if that's your ridge line, then that water would go this way, this water would go that way.
Yes, absolutely right. And we have no intentions of actually cutting any of those trees down.
Okay.
Most of that back there, if not all of it, will stay the way it is.
The front side looks like it's in pasture and then.
It is,
So
yeah.
behind, okay.
And the Jason and his family that live behind it there, that's what I kind of promised him too. You know, we'll do as much as we can to save all those trees. So
Other questions of the applicant?
The rest of the lots, are they going to your family? Did
No.
you say your family? Okay.
no, 4 other families.
4 other families.
We really, I mean, I've seen a lot of people up here that want to not be in a subdivision. But we want to have something
Yes.
nice that's controlled, that doesn't end up being, you know, with no restrictions. I basically want to pick my neighbors and protect what I'm doing. So I don't want to just, you know, let anything happen there.
And
So
what was it you said about trees?
the wooded part of this, most of it's about half of it or 3/4 of it's probably pasture. And that's where most of the houses will be built. And I don't want to impact any of the trees. I'm
Oh,
trying to stay out of that 100%. There is that one lot on the corner that may, I mean, it'll be minor, but I did tell Jason, the guy that lives behind it, that we would, you know, do our best not to disturb anything there. So, and the least amount of disturbed area is better for the water quality.
Do y'all want to see this anymore? The houses are beautiful. They're beautiful.
Yeah, we built all these.
Really?
These architectural similar to this.
Excellent.
But every one I build, she finds something wrong with it.
Other questions of the applicant?
I'm not commenting on this.
All right. So at this time, I'll open the hearing. Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Come on up, give us your name and your address. Please sign in on the paper. And once you've signed in, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, how are y'all? My name is Karen Smith and I live south and kind of west on this property, from this property. So I live here and then that little chunk right there is my property. And I've lived here about 20 years.
How many acres?
Huh? How many acres do I have? 21 acres.
Okay.
And on this part. And so we've actually leased this property too. for our cows at one point. So I know this property and now I know how the water runs off this property. So along Hughes Towers, there is a tree line, but I'm sure he's going to get rid of that because he has to put his driveways there, which is going to cause more runoff to this property also. There's 3 swales on this property, swale lines, and one of them goes into my property. So there's one goes into my property, one goes down to my 2 neighbors' properties. One goes around the Dancers, and then one goes down to the Evans that are down towards the creek, and it floods. You don't believe how much water comes off that property. I'm just worried about, and then it comes down, of course, down Hughes Towers, and then I have a culvert pipe from Hughes Towers that dumps into my pasture also. So, and there's a culvert pipe up here too that dumps into this property also that causes more runoff and water, stormwater. I agree with the zoning. I agree with the zoning, but and also the environmental plan where you're able to do the erosion control. I agree with that. I think that's very fair. I just want to make sure that whenever he decides that he's going to leave the property, because he is a developer, that I'm hoping that he won't, and he'd be a great neighbor, but I just want to make sure that we're not left behind. And nobody is going to tell me, once he leaves that, we're just stuck there with all this, water over the years. I live also in the Georgia Power has an easement through my property and has totally destroyed our, this wetland area. So, I mean, this is some of the things that happen. Is how much water that comes up and is pushed up culvert pipes up on this property. That is my creek. So there's a lot of water that comes off the hill, and the Hughes and Georgia Power won't do anything about it.
Amen. 3 minutes. Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone else here to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve ZA 21-03 with the stipulation of a soil erosion plan on each lot.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Satterfield with a stipulation that was proposed by Planning Director Jameson Kinley, seconded by Commissioner Dooley. Is there any discussion?
David, is there a way that you can engage Georgia Power to see if you can help this lady with her water issue that's outside of the scope of this, but that she addressed?
But you've got pre-existing problems. He's not caused anything yet. But I mean, you've got all of our numbers. I hope if you've got a problem, you can call me. We'll, because I don't want you to be tormented.
David, or McKee, excuse me. Can Louise get involved in that if it's a power company easement? Can we kind of, and ask her to look at it too?
She can get involved in anything she
That's
wants
what I said, that
to.
she's,
Yeah, she will, but do you?
She could, and we have a contact. Allison is the engineer's name, the local engineer's name here. And we can reach out to Allison on this issue as well.
I mean, they should be able to, they should be held to the same standards as far as controlling water as we do, or our individual does.
Other discussion?
My final comment is going to be outside of the issue with the water situation. I'm excited to see the type of product that you're bringing to Dawson County. I think the larger lots, a diversification in what we offer from a residential product is needed. And I like to see the craftsman style that really meets within the character of the area and the character of our community. So I do applaud you for bringing something that is a good, high quality project and not just squeezing these houses right next to each other, because I think we need to see more of that. So
Other discussion? Got a motion and a second with the stipulation that Jameson presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0 with the stipulation. All right, we'll move on to new business. First up, consideration to move forward with public hearings for a broadband ready community ordinance. David brought that a couple weeks ago. You'll be voting tonight to move forward with public hearings. Any other information needed? Motion.
make a motion to approve to move forward with the public hearings for the broadband ready community ordinance.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. So we'll move forward with public hearing. Next up, we have consideration to move forward with public hearings for an alcohol ordinance update. Jameson brought that, or I think Jameson's staff brought that a couple of weeks ago when he had to leave. Any other information needed on that? You'll be voting to move forward with a public hearing. Any other information needed? Come on up, Jameson. You can answer those if you'd like.
Chairman. I appreciate you allowing my staff to present this. Robbie's been doing a good job as he's coming on board. I've put him to work. He's moving as fast as we are now. So there were several great, it was a great discussion. And I appreciate y'all engaging in that. There were several questions that were brought up. Commissioner Dooley, you asked about putting a cap on renewals from 3 to 6 months, which would then require them to come back before the BOC. So we chose to take that portion out where it required after December 31st, it treated like a completely new application. And then you mentioned having 3 to 6 months. What I would prefer to do is really just to, at that point, so they have till December or November 31st to reapply for their alcohol license. It is then late between November 31st and December 31st.
November's 30 days.
Correct.
Are you meaning to say November or December?
So if you have an alcohol license, you have till November 31st each year to reapply.
There's just 30 days in November. So are you meaning to say
30th.
November or
Yes.
December?
Sorry, you are correct. It's November 30th.
I was beginning to think
He's
We're
adding
adding,
days.
I'm adding days. It's leap year. We're adding days to November now. You are
Okay,
correct.
so now
November
let's go
30th.
Back to November.
November 30th is
Okay.
the deadline for for renewal applications, right? You are late if you apply, if we receive that renewal application after November 30th. As of December
Okay.
31st, you essentially, if you haven't applied, and now we give ourselves that grace period because if we have an influx in December, we still have to have that time to process, right? So as of December 31st, or as of January 1st, there's the first day in January, you are officially operating without an alcohol license because that
Okay.
license has expired. My intent of that was to turn it over to the marshal's office and force them to come into compliance. They're going to be visiting these people that haven't, these businesses that haven't applied for their license early in January. I don't particularly like the idea of giving them 3 to 6 months because that's saying that you can operate 3 to 6 months without an alcohol license.
That wasn't what I was really getting at with that. I was getting at, if you're taking out the restriction, for them to have to come back on the 31st, I just wanted to make sure they would have to come back. If the license lapsed, that there was a mechanism in there to make it to where they couldn't say, oh, 3 months from now, we're just going to pay the 50% and come back without coming before the board to make it a new basically a new application.
Absolutely. I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
And my intent of doing that is just to put it in the hands of the marshals. The marshals' first objective is always to bring them into compliance as opposed to enforcement. But if they choose not to go that route, then we go to the enforcement route and we leave it up to the magistrate judge to say, hey, you got to come back before the board for approval. So.
Yeah, and that's all I was getting at, is just making sure there was, not leaving it open-ended.
Absolutely. No, we try our best to,
Yeah.
make sure that the enforcement's involved. And as we move forward in planning development, I'm trying to separate out those duties between planning development and the marshal's office. So we can clearly pass one case from planning department over into the marshal's department. Commissioner Dooley, you also asked about what type of businesses would be allowed to do curbside delivery. And the answer to that question is your retail package stores, because that's what's laid out in the state laws about the curbside delivery. So it's going to be your liquor stores, your gas stations, your Krogers, your Publix, the people that sell it in the container. It's not going to be your restaurants and things that will be allowed. They have to have that retail package alcohol license in order to do curbside delivery. Piggybacking on that, Commissioner Gaines asked if there would be drive-through alcohol sales.
I wasn't looking for that. I was just asking if that was going to be allowed. Let's clarify.
Listen to that.
The answer to that, obviously, is we're not going to restrict what kind of curbside service. So potentially, if they want to do a drive-through alcohol sales, then they would still have to have that drive-through mechanism and come through plan review, come through commercial permitting, and have to be looked at by the fire department and meet all those standards. So yes, but there are a whole lot of stipulations that go along with that. Commissioner Satterfield, you asked about the safeguards against curbside pickup and making sure pickup and delivery to prevent alcohols being given to inappropriate minors, I assume. The answer to that is basically, and I've spoken to a couple of different retail package stores about that. They have the same concerns you do, because it's their liability just as much, especially when it comes to full-on delivery to people's houses. Now, currently, it's interesting. Our alcohol ordinance allows delivery because we don't restrict it. We allow delivery to the homes because that is allowed underneath the state right now. We don't allow you to bring it to the curb. So you can't take it to the curb and put it in someone's car, but you can deliver it all the way to their house. That is just kind of because we don't restrict it. But that is something that would be marshaled underneath the sheriff's office and underneath state laws, as far as making sure that people don't sell to minors.
Well, only thing I don't want to call a taxi service or a Uber, go by and pick up a 12-pack delivered to such address. Who's going to check? I guess, first of all, the person picking it up, and then the person they're delivering it to, because that will happen.
Exactly.
They could do that now legally,
Huh?
couldn't they?
I don't know.
Call an Uber driver and say, hey.
They could. People do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is something, this is a liability this is a liability that it's put back on the retail package stores. It's not something that my marshals can marshal through this specific
That's right.
ordinance.
Right.
Impossible.
And this is something that it's through the enforcement of our sheriff's offices, essentially.
Okay.
But this is something that's taken into consideration throughout the entire state. And this is something that all the retail package stores are kind of getting together and weighing their liability odds, because if they offer that delivery service, they have to offer a specific delivery service. It's got to be regulated. There's just a lot more hoops. We just have to decide, this board has to decide whether or not they want to move forward and allow that within this county.
I think the delivery service needs to come by and get their picture taken, have that ID, just like a waiter does.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Do we regulate the delivery service part of it? Like because I've heard there's companies that actually like an Uber, but it's a small company that distributes to different, they do that for a business. But do we regulate those businesses?
We don't regulate those.
It might be in the ordinance. Then.
You've raised your hand 10 times. I assume you have something.
Software. We're actually taking the orders all the way to the delivery. that will go through every step verification process, checking their ID, checking their credit card, having them sign, having we can match their identification with what they've already provisionally installed.
These kids are a lot better than we are on computers. though.
He sounds like it.
I'm not sure that we're prepared to touch that on that
Right
in
now,
this
we need to-
ordinance.
yeah, We need to just look into that some more.
There's obviously, as this develops and as this gets further, there are applications and things, but I have absolutely no idea how we would enforce any of that. And I don't want to put anything in this ordinance that I can't enforce.
Right.
Last but not least, I think there was a question from Commissioner Gaines about the fairness in between fees, right? Basically, we kept all the fees the same. It's $750 for beer, it's $750 for wine, it's $330 for the liquor by the drink. Those are somewhat lower than our surrounding counties as of right now. And to keep the process simple as possible for us to be able to have someone come in and we educate them on walking through our ordinance, we kept our fees the same. We didn't feel like that was a necessary change to give any leeway one way or the other. I have spoken to almost all of the wedding venues that will be applying for this. All of them so far, they're probably not going to go the route where they're going to sell the alcohol. They're going to do the BYOB option.
Okay, right.
So we are asking that this move forward to public comment, which would go through two public hearing settings, one before Planning Commission and then one back before the Board of Commissioners. We will do the Planning Commission because obviously we point to specific zoning classifications, so it would be somewhat of a zoning regulated document. So we want to make sure that both public hearings between both boards happen. So I'll entertain any questions.
Questions for Jameson?
Just look into that, possibly how we register a delivery service where they have to come in and get ID or put a sticker on their car saying we've been approved to deliver alcohol in Dawson County.
Absolutely. I'll have to reach out to several other jurisdictions that already do that and see how they're handling, because that is an interesting scenario that we will have to come across eventually one day. So absolutely.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Jameson. Motions.
I make a motion, we move forward with public hearings for this alcohol ordinance.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett,
Second.
second by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0 to move forward with hearings. Next up, we have consideration of a drug and alcohol program manager policy update. Brad brought that a couple weeks ago. That is in reference to our transit system, a different system than we have for our employees. It's the DOT system. Y'all need any other information from Brad? He's here. Motions.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield,
Okay.
seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next up, we have ratification of Fire Station 2 sewer emergency purchase, repair, and budget. We'll be using our contractor that we have on standby for that, which is Townley Construction. You received an email in reference to this emergency situation that came up. You heard more information about it tonight. What's the pleasure of the board on this ratification request?
Motion to approve ratification to emergency sewer purchase and repair, I guess.
Yep. All right, motion to approve the ratification of the sewer purchase, repair, and budget.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield, seconded by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. and that's approved 4-0. Item number 5, you heard earlier today, it's the Cacjcc grant for treatment court. That was presented to you earlier today. Any other information needed? This is just a reapplication, something that they do on a regular basis. It does have a 10% match, which is covered in their budget through the personnel cost. Motions.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett, seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. We also have number 6, Cacjcc grant for family treatment court, which is a different form of treatment. You also heard that earlier today. This too is a reapplication for this grant, covers personnel and other costs. Any other information needed? Motions.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Dooley.
What's that acronym?
The acronym, I can read it for you if you want me to.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Gage. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that too is approved 4-0. No one signed up for public comment in this particular section. We do have a need for executive session, and that executive session would be in reference to pending litigation
Let's
and
add potential land acquisition to that too. Please.
pending litigation and potential land acquisition. Do I have a motion to go in executive session?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. We will take about 5 minutes and then we will go into executive session. Thank you for your attendance. We are adjourned.
Can you come here for just a second?